Whoever killed Father must still be in this inn. We can't let them escape, can we? I will do whatever it takes to uncover their scheme.
Well then, let's think about what's happened so far. First, is there anything that caught your attention? Alright. Use your reasoning to find the culprit.
Got it. I will make them confess. Let's make sense of this. Here's what I thought at first. The killer murdered my father, Genne, last night. They were also looking for something in this room, but it was too dark because the light bulb was burnt out, so they tried again. When we came by to wake my father, they panicked and escaped through the window using the rope.
That must be what happened.
But one thing puzzled me. If the killer was fleeing in panic, then there is something that really doesn't make sense.
Oh, there is?
Yes. It's the fact that this rope is fastened securely to the railing. You wouldn't think that it had been tied in a hurry. We can deduce that this was definitely not a spontaneous action by the killer.
Ah, so the killer had planned from the start to escape to the riverbank.
Which leads us to my next question. If the killer did, in fact, climb down this rope to the riverbank, that means there was something they didn't know. If they had known, they certainly would not have picked that escape route.
Something that would make them steer clear of the riverbank. Information that the killer didn't have?
Indeed. Something that was known to everyone, except the main suspect in this case. Namely, The fact that Toako had been drinking until morning. It was impossible to predict what an inebriated Toako was going to do. She might have gone to the riverbank to clear her head. Do you think the killer would have risked running into her there during their escape?
She was definitely drunk, but as you said, no one could have known if she would appear at the riverbank or not.
I saw Miss Towako too, and I don't think she went out to the riverbank.
Anyway, who would believe a drunk witness? I don't even think the killer needed to worry about being seen by Toako.
You have a point. Let's try this again. Last night, when Ayame lost her glasses, there was some commotion, wasn't there?
At such a late hour, too.
And that was all your fault.
Those who are present knew about Saita's plan to search the riverbank in the morning.
Yes, I know, I'm
Something
sorry.
happened?
Go get them already. I can't...
No one in that group would choose the riverbank as an escape route.
That's a good point.
That leaves only one person. Who could possibly be the killer? The killer is... Uncle. You're the killer. You missed the commotion last night, meaning only you would think it was safe to flee to the riverbank.
I see. So I murdered Gene yesterday. Forgot something important and sneaked back in this morning. Then I appeared before all of you pretending to know nothing. How interesting. But I have an alibi. I was with a patient last night. Right up until Ayame contacted me this morning.
Yes, I am sure that is true.
In that case, I couldn't be the one who fled this room, am I right?
Uncle, you were... Uncle, you escaped by leaping out that window.
From this high up? Do you really think that's humanly possible? I'd have broken a limb or two. Huh. Besides, why would I take that risk if the rope was already there?
The rope was only there for show. That's how you managed to disappear completely by the time we entered this room.
Let's assume you're right. It still couldn't possibly be me. I was treating an emergency patient up until this morning, you see.
But
I won't tolerate being treated like a criminal. You know, we should leave this to the police.
is that how you plan to get away with this?
Now that Gene is dead, I'm in charge here. I trust no one has any objections. Now, Yoshino, I'm afraid I must ask you to leave!
I don't know what my uncle told the police after that. But he ultimately got away with it. All because my reasoning fell short. I couldn't follow the path of logic. You didn't escape.
I'm glad you understand.
You only made it look as though you had escaped, using a simple trick.
A trick?
That rope, the cast iron kettle tied to the end of it, the vase, the Shigaraki Tanuki statue. You used all of these objects to trick us into thinking that the killer had escaped through the window.
All right, let's hear it. This kettle at the end of the rope. What do you make of it?
The kettle was used to break the window.
The window doesn't look broken to me. If you're going to bring up things that didn't happen, I must object.
There must be another explanation. But I don't know what it is. You didn't escape. The kettle was used to pull the rope. You used a tanuki statue to hold down the rope, with the kettle end of the rope outside the window. When someone opened the door and moved the statue, the rope would be pulled into this room, and the end tied to the kettle would drop down to the riverbank. This is exactly what happened when Josie opened the door this morning.
Even without you nearby, the trick would be set in motion automatically. And that's how you intended to evade suspicion.
You really do have quite the imagination. So, what about the vase? I have an interest in ceramics. Yes, but what does that prove?
As for the vase, You set up this vase because you wanted us to hear the sound of it falling over. By putting the rope around the vase, it would be pulled off balance and fall over. Hearing that sound, we would be convinced that the killer was inside this room.
Interesting theory. But that's all mere conjecture. Perhaps the killer actually used the rope to escape. That seems more plausible, no?
But then, I can't think of why the ashtray would end up at the riverbank.
What ashtray?
The one which was beside the window yesterday was found on the riverbank.
So what if it was?
Think about it. To make us think the killer had escaped from the window, you needed the tanuki, the rope, the kettle, and the vase. That's all you needed. The ashtray didn't serve any purpose. So the reason we found it at the riverbank was... You didn't intend for it to happen. By sheer chance, the ashtray must have caught on the rope as it slid out the window. And if you were at the riverbank, would you leave the ashtray there? What if your fingerprints were on it? Or what if my father had left something in it that might incriminate you? That seems possible, and you would probably come to the same conclusion. In short, you would definitely take the ashtray and run, but you didn't. Because you weren't there at all. Let me say it again. The killer is. You're the killer, Uncle. Aren't you? It's time for you to come clean.
Now, let's accept for the moment that the rope was a diversion that was left by the killer. In that case, that means it was put in place right after Gene was murdered. Which brings us back to the main question, who murdered Gene? So, do you have any evidence that points to me?
I do. But before I explain my reasoning, there's one thing I'd like to ask you, Uncle.
What is it?
I'd like to take another look at your entry in the inn's guest book. Here is the guest book which Misao has kindly shared with me. This is your writing, isn't it?
It is.
Looks like it was written with a fountain pen, doesn't it? The ink and the lines are clearly different from all the other entries. You wrote this with your personal fountain pen, Uncle.
It writes easily. I like it.
So why did you have to borrow a pencil from Misao? when you left to attend to an emergency patient, you borrowed a pencil from Misao, didn't you?
Well,
So, why?
Because...
Perhaps... The fountain pen was the murder weapon, wasn't it?
Come on, you think you could kill someone with a fountain pen?
If the tip is sharp enough, it's possible.
I didn't see any wounds on Gene's body that suggested death by fountain pen. Did you look closely?
Not exactly.
I don't mind waiting for the police to inspect the body, but I doubt they'll find any such wound.
If you're that confident, maybe the fountain pen wasn't the murder weapon, but there must be a reason you borrowed that pencil instead of using your own pen. It must have been because... You needed to talk to Misao, isn't that right?
What about?
You had to ensure that someone knew you were leaving.
Now, how does that prove any way at all that I'm the killer?
This doesn't seem to be the reason. In that case... Your fountain pen was out of ink, wasn't it? You kept it in your sleeve, perhaps, and it broke during your scuffle with my father. Isn't that so? And I'd wager you didn't notice the broken fountain pen at the time. Because if you had realized it, you certainly wouldn't have left such damning evidence at the scene of the crime.
Evidence? What evidence could there be? Out with it!
This brazier. It was still burning this morning. You must have thrown on more coal to make us think that someone was in this room all night.
What basis do you have for saying that? That's mere conjecture, not hard evidence.
But
In the first place, a brazier like this can keep burning all night without any help. There's no need to add any charcoal.
in that case, this is the evidence. This burned out light bulb. You caused it to go out somehow during the murder.
The light bulb might have burned out before last night. Isn't that possible?
Well, yes, I suppose. I did think it was time to change it.
Hear that? This light bulb has nothing to do with me. Well, are you still going to use it as evidence?
Okay then. What about this? That ashtray. The fact that this was on the riverbank proves that the rope trick was used.
So what? Anyone could have set up that trick. Nothing about it proves that I'm the killer.
But no one else here had any reason to use such a trick.
Do you think the police will arrest me based on that? It's nothing more than speculation. First of all, the ashtray could have been on the riverbank for some other reason unrelated to the rope trick.
Then what about this? Father's bloodstains, all dried up and tinged with black. But this shade of black is more than just dried blood. It contains some of the ink from your fountain pen, you see. You got in a scuffle with my father, and the pen that was in your sleeve broke. The ink that leaked out got mixed with my father's blood. Am I right? Once we compare the composition of these stains and the ink in the guest book, the answer will be clear. This ink is the evidence that you are the killer. We solved the mystery. But one question still remained.
Well, who the hell are you?
That's my very insightful companion and fellow investigator. But more importantly, Uncle, tell me why you killed my father. Answer me.
Saita told you the true purpose of the succession, I presume. This is Gene's last year, and you were next in line to become ageless, Yoshino. But Gene not only let you escape, he even gave you our last Tokichiku, the only one left in existence. Gene vehemently opposed the Shijima family's research. He let his successor run away with the Tokichiku in an attempt to end the tradition once and for all.
And that's why you murdered him? How could you? How could you, Uncle Asa? I'll never forgive you. You didn't have to kill him!
Silence! So what if one tired shell of a man dies? Let go of me! Don't touch me!
Is that a camellia?
So you're a Scarlet Camellia after all.
Why are you meddling in our affairs? Have we met before?
My name is Josui Sakaki.
Sakaki.
Kusaka's a false name. Don't tell me you've forgotten the name Sakaki. So it was you who left. A red camellia on the wreckage of my family home.
I see. So there was a survivor. That explains why we only found one Tokijiku in the whole estate. You'd taken them all and fled, hadn't you?
You took away my father, my mother, my child. I will never forgive you for killing my family!
Do you really think you're stronger than me?
Josui! Are you alright?
So Eizan Shijima's a Scarlet Camellia. I will make him pay for his crimes no matter what it takes. I'm sorry. You got dragged into this again, Yoshino.
What are you saying? I wanted this. This is just the beginning.
But we should not be together anymore. Just forget about me. Go out there and live the life you want. Otherwise, Genne won't be able to rest in peace.
Josui! Soon the snow began to fall, stealing away the last remnants of warmth. Left behind, alone in the dead of night, I silently watched the world around me fade to white. The ageless Genne Shijima murdered in cold blood. Then there's the red camellia.
A murder every 10 years. And at the scene of each crime, another red camellia.
Every 10 years, another tragedy befalls someone in the family. We're the only ones left.
So Eizan Shijima is the Scarlet Camellia. But if that were true, then there must be someone of Eizan's height and build at both that nightclub in 1972 and here in the present. There's no guarantee the Scarlet Camellia is just one person, after all. Hello? Eiji?
My father's regained consciousness.
Really?
He's still suffering from nausea and paralysis, so he's not out of the woods yet.
Hold on for just 1 second, Neiji. I'll be going now.
Don't worry about me. My wait's finally over.
So you were able to talk to him?
A little. I asked him about that skeleton. He said he dug it up because of what his father, my grandfather, Seita, said on his deathbed.
The long-concealed sins of the Shijima family are buried beneath the cherry tree.
Did he mean that skeleton?
Yes. I wanted to make amends while I was head of the Shijima family. I knew and yet kept quiet. So I must atone for that sin as well.
But Granddad only told him about the skeleton's existence. We still don't know who it was.
He was mentioned in the manuscript. Eiji, I've learned something interesting too. The continuation of the Shinseinen story was in the storehouse somehow. In it, a character named Saeta Shijima talks about the Tokijiku.
Huh?
It seems the human experiments that Ryohei talked about in the nightclub story, they really happened. What's worse, every 100 years, the current test subject was killed, and a new one was chosen.
What are you talking about?
The Shijima's research on agelessness was built on human sacrifices. Your father wanted to end that tradition as well, surely.
I see. So that's why he refused to talk about the Tokijiku.
If everything in this manuscript is true, then Ryohei's story makes complete sense.
I agree.
If we had the Tokijiku, would Ryohei get better right away?
No. The Tokijiku makes you ageless. It doesn't make you immortal. Wait. Actually, my father was poisoned with arsenic. Arsenic poisoning inhibits cell proliferation and DNA repair. If I'm not mistaken, and the Tokijiku does somehow get telomeres to repair DNA, it just might cure him.
Can you think of anywhere the Tokijiku might be?
It might be in that room.
What? Did you think of some place it might be?
I can't say for sure, but I'll check it out.
Hold on. I'll go with you. Hey, wait, Eiji! Jeez. Akari! What are you doing here?
You weren't back from the storehouse, so I got worried. And then I found this. This is what that detective was knocked out with, I think.
So the killer hit him on the back of the head with this pot.